so far hasn't
That's
said
crazy.
a word about this. There's a lot of interesting things to say.
How far in this
welcome to
video are
Uncensored.
we? Oh, Lord.
I think one of the key things of this series that's made it so popular is that anyone who's had young sons knows that they are, if you're not careful, they get exposed to a lot of nasty stuff on the internet. We all know this. And a lot of it is this kind of incel stuff, which I think can be a really malevolent influence on impressionable young men. And they gravitate to it. And I think that partly what Andrew's getting at, I agree with, in the sense that following the Me Too Time's Up campaigns, which were in many ways, extremely laudable, brought down a lot of very bad men, no question of that. But they also...
Why are they not talking about how feminism is the hatred of man? And they're feminized women all over the place. No one's actually talking about that. That was the agenda of feminism. Just
the
so you
pendulum
know.
swung so wildly that I think a lot of young men in particular felt
Because of
completely
your mom. That's crazy.
disenfranchised from society, felt
It
like
starts
they
in
were
the family.
being treated like a bunch of young Harvey Weinsteins, unless they could prove otherwise. They didn't really know what the rules of engagement were with women, with teenage girls anymore, whatever. They lost their way, and by losing their way, they gravitated, I think, to very loud voices on the internet like Andrew Tate, who I think, like I say, he says a lot of stuff I find myself nodding to, and then he'll say this.
They didn't lose their way. 100% they didn't lose their way. It's the parents' responsibility. They're kids. It falls on the parents. Shows that the parents are not good parents. Because guess what? The woman out here working, going crazy, and the man does not know how to handle the woman. So that's what most of the time, there's a lot of single mom because the guy doesn't know how to handle the woman. So he end up leaving her, and she will use the kid against him to get some reprimand or whatever she wants to do, because now she judges the guy and resents the guy. So she'll try everything for the kid not to be in the guy's fault, for the guy not to be in the kid's life, right? And not only that, it's because the guy doesn't know how to handle the woman, because he take on the spirit of his mom. So the only way he knows to handle a woman is to give her these emotional love, soft love, because he's looking back from her the same love he's giving to her. But she now judged him and realized that he's not a man, he's a female, because he give her loves like a female. And she's not looking for that. That's why most women end up leaving a relationship, because that's how most men are. They're emotional. And that's what women say, I want an emotional man. And when they get it, they don't want it. Because he's too feminine. It reminds her of her mom. That's crazy.
Misogynist stuff, which I just despise it. I see no reason why you should ever want to have a relationship with a woman the way that Andrew Tate wants you to, where it's just pure misogyny. Just talk to me first of all about why you think young boys, teenage boys, young men, why they gravitated to people like Tate. Because they have.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so I think it's, first of all, we got to understand that we have an amazing responsibility as a parent to lead from the home and to have these open conversations with our young children. All right, whether they're male children, female children, we have to make sure that we're having open door conversations and we are tackling the hard subjects. Because if we don't take care of everything at home, we don't take care of everything in public, like at school, and other forces within society that help raise our children, we always say it takes a village. Well, it certainly does, but it starts at home. And if you cannot have these open conversations and allow your children to be honest and open with how they are feeling about society and the things that they are seeing,
I just have to stop it there for a little bit. He says it starts in the home. I 100% agree with that. But then he jumps to say it takes a village. No, it doesn't, because guess what? Society is the village now, and they're influencing your kids how to be in society. So does it take a village? No, it doesn't. That's the old days. That's the whole trick that they tell you. That's why people are like this, because a village will raise your kids and give them the principle that they want to give your kids. Right? So no, it doesn't. It takes you, the parent. And he says, oh, they raise your kids in school and all of these other things. Listen, That's why you have a mom at home raising your kids and taking care of your kids at home, and she can raise the kid properly by you helping her and telling her how to raise the kid, and she raised the kid how you want the kid to be raised. Because remember, evil still does come to the woman. Because when those emotional feelings comes over her, she gets erratic. She doesn't know how to control it. So it's your responsibility, the man, that is just God made you in the image of in likeness. Your wisdom come from God, and you're able to pass it down to the woman, and the woman pass it down to your kid. Not school teach your kid. Not because schools are crap. They're crap.
They're going to go to misogyny. They're going to go to the Andrew and Tristan Tates of the world, and they're going to learn how to be a man from that. And that is not what society needs. It's not what the world needs. That is not masculinity. It is masquerading as misogyny.
How do we protect young men from the easy access at the moment there is to people like Tate? I mean, how do you actually put a ring fence around them so that you can tackle exactly what you just said, but they're not also being dragged into that world?
It's tough because they're growing up in a world we never grew up in, Piers. We didn't grow up with the internet. We didn't grow up with Bumble,
that's right.
Tinder, Instagram, Facebook.
No, I was taught how to treat women by my mother, my grandmother.
Open the door,
my
right?
aunts,
Open the door.
A lot of strong women in my family, very strong.
Piers a beta male. He was taught by his mother, his grandmother, his aunt. How can a woman teach you how to treat a woman? How? She's gonna make you subjective to the woman, being nice to her. She needs emotional love. She needs you to be soft with her. That's not what she wants. Piers have taken on the spirit of his entire woman part of his family. He doesn't know how to be a man. That's crazy. I doubt if he lead his relationship at this point. That's crazy.
Women, and they would just take no crap from the men. So that's the environment I grew up in.
Absolutely. So how do we insulate our children from this?
That's
by having
crazy.
Conversations, putting parameters around the social media aspects of life. And
oh yeah, this guy, he did say, now I forgot. He said something, but now I forgot. It came and it went.
having the conversations at home. Hey son, hey daughter.
Oh yes, he said. Let's hear him finish.
What you're going to see out there in the real world. This is what you're going to see on the internet. If you see something like this, that is not how a true man is supposed to act. And hey, that's not how a real man's supposed to treat you.
Right. So
we have to have.
You can't have conversation with kids and tell them don't do this, because guess what? You tell them not to do it, they're gonna go do it. All you need to do is be an example of what it should be. And the kid will come and ask question. Don't force it on the kid, because you force it on the kid, it's going to resent you, and the kid's going to do the opposite of what you say. 100%. So just be an example. They will come and they'll seek and they will ask. And even sometimes they'll ask, they'll still fall away. And that's okay. That's their journey. It's just like the prodigal son. It's their journey to go and figure it out. And if they truly love God, if they truly see how evil they are, if they truly see how crazy the world is, if they truly see that they have been through so much and they're frustrated and they're ready to return to the Father, they will return to God. Because God is the only person that can help you and anyone else. You can't help no one. You cannot even help yourself.
The conversations.
Yeah, Andrew, do you intrinsically disagree with what you've just heard?
Yeah, I do. I think, again, all of this is always the burden on men. Burden on men. Burden on men. Men need to be doing this.
No, it's a family, Andrew. The family.
Hang on. Let me
family,
finish,
Andrew.
Men need to,
husband and wife.
Okay, yeah. So let me back up. Okay, again, men need to do this. Men need to do that. What I'm talking about is what duties do women have in society? What are the actual women's duties towards men? Everybody is raised from the time they're kids how we're supposed to treat women. We all know how to treat women. We never talk about how men are supposed to be treated. That's almost never discussed, especially by how women are supposed to treat men, what their duties in society are. This has been completely dispelled. Guys like Tate have risen because Christianity itself has become a feminized religion, especially the Protestant sects has become completely feminized.
Christianity has become
and it didn't
feminized.
used to punish masculinity at all, and now it does. And so, where's the
Yeah, they got women preachers in church preaching the gospel, telling man how man should be, and I'm like, bro, this is crazy. And it's not under supervision of the man. That is just wild.
alternative? Where's the spiritual alternative? It's nowhere. And we need to get back to this fundamental question of what even is misogyny. Because I don't think that men kicking the crap out of each other, being brutes, insulting each other, hazing each other, even bullying each other is misogyny. Not only do I not think it's misogyny, I think it's perfectly healthy.
Yeah, but I don't think that's misogyny.
Well-adjusted.
Is that the argument?
But that is not misogyny.
Well, no, hang on.
Wait, hang
How
on.
women see this is tone
Misogyny
policing.
is where you have a hatred or whatever you want to phrase it towards women. It's not about men treating men.
Sorry,
It doesn't matter
toxic
how we treat-
masculinity is what I'm referencing here, and toxic masculinity is what they're claiming leads to misogyny. So what I'm talking about is these are all masculine traits. There's nothing wrong with them, right? When you're talking about misogyny itself, I want to know what that even is. Is it just asserting yourself to women, telling women no, telling them no, that's bullshit?
No,
telling
I would
them
say
you're
it's
wrong,
okay. Let me
telling
answer
them you're
you.
saying stupid things.
Andrew Tate says he's quite open about it. Women should stay at home. They shouldn't go out to work. They should do what he tells them. He's the king of the castle in his house. Blah 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 blah. That is misogyny, isn't it? I've got a
That's
daughter.
not mis-
That's
I've
not-
got a 13-year-old daughter.
That's
No,
not
I don't
misogyny.
think
Yeah.
She can
That's
never
not
leave
misogyny.
the house. She's somebody's
It's
chatting.
not
That's
never
crazy.
leaving the house. Look, it is true that the world would be a better place if we didn't have it inverted and women did have a natural role at home and that was glorified and that there was government propaganda around the nuclear family and keeping women home. Why do you want to outsource the raising of children to strangers instead of your wife? That's a way better society. Why do you want your best and
It's
brightest
true.
women
It's true.
forced to go to a
I have to
workplace
agree.
instead of the
I have to
best
agree
and
on that
brightest
point.
women staying at home raising their children? That's a way better system. It's always been a better system.
I guess we're talking
It's
freedom
like,
of choice.
that's not
No one's forcing
misogyny.
women to do anything. It's freedom of choice. It's freedom of choice. I love the fact that my wife's out there working, teaching kids, and
Beta.
building adolescents. I love that.
Bro, your wife do not love your kids. It's a false sense of fulfillment. She have a false self-fulfillment. Instead of staying home, raising your kids and making sure your kids are taken care of and they can grow up to be good for society. And they can raise another generation of your kid, good for society. And everyone works on their family to make sure their family is good for society. She's out here raising other people's kids for a false self of fulfillment so she can feel some type of way about herself, so she can fulfill her ego and her pride and be egotistic to be equal to a man. You're a beta male. I don't even know your name, my guy, but you are a feminine beta male man. You can't even run your household. So no one should actually listen to you. I know
I
what
love
you're
that.
saying.
Into your
That's
point
crazy.
about what do I get from a woman? I have a home. I have 3 beautiful children. I have communication in the house. And to me,
Beta
that's
male
more than it.
communication in the house. His wife runs that house 100%. Oh, I need you to communicate. What does that even mean? I don't want to talk. Why me not wanting to talk is gonna affect you? It shows that she's not working on herself. He's not working on herself. They both depend on each other for fulfillment. They're looking for salvation in each other. And it's never gonna work. It's only destroy. That's crazy.
Anything.
That's
I
wild.
don't understand where I'm not saying you're wrong in your world, but to sit there and say to a woman, what do I get out of this woman? That's treating her like an object.
One thing I want to play clear.
Okay, so it's okay to treat men like objects, give them duties,
I
but
don't
you're not
feel
allowed
like
to
an
give
object.
women duties.
I feel respected.
Okay,
in
well,
my
let me
home.
ask you this.
I'm not
How come
angry
it is
about
in the
it.
United States that men can be drafted, Women can't be drafted, but women can vote to send men to war. 18 years old, they're stabbing each other in the face with bayonets. Women can vote to send men to war that they themselves do not have to fight. It's a duty that men have, they do not have. What's the counter duty for women? There's no obligation for women to have children. We're well under replacement rate. It's slated 45% of women will be single in the next 10 years, up to 60% in the next 30. That's the estimates right now. Our replacement rate, we can't even replace our own country's birth rates. That's how low they are. This is what we're seeing as a systemic issue inside of society because nobody will put duties on women. Instead, you just pretend.
Bro, this guy have no points to talk about. You said the dumbest things ever. I swear.
Like you that are making that maybe that's why the replacement rate is low.
You say the dumbest things ever.
Don't talk over each other. Let James speak.
I can't understand why you are sat there confidently thinking of yourself as a victim constantly. You have a platform and you're sat here like, I'm a victim. What are women doing for me? What happened in your childhood that has made you so traumatized as an adult that you cannot stand women succeeding? I'm so confused. I feel like the problem is not, and actually maybe this is our fault. Maybe this is the left's fault. Maybe this is modern society's fault for leaving people like you behind. But genuinely, we do not hate men, and toxic masculinity has been thrown around a lot. Ultimately, some of what you're saying is toxic, but that's not because you're a man. That's because you're an idiot.
All right.
Okay. So just to give you a quick rejoinder here. Again, didn't contend with a single argument I made. You just said, why are you acting like a victim? While you're here talking about how women are victims.
You're not contending with arguments that other people
It's
make.
wild to me. It's so wild to me.
You know this is Piers' show.
Let me play another clip.
I know this is Piers' show.
Let me go to Tommy. Tommy, I want to play you a clip. This is from a show called Newsnight on the BBC in the UK. Where the host Victoria Derbyshire had a panel of young men on and asked them, when was the last time you cried? Let's watch this.
When was the last time you cried?
Honestly, the last time I cried, I couldn't tell you.
Same with Leo, I can't really remember the last time that I cried fully.
A lot of times I feel emotion and I look at myself, why can't I cry? We're told to suppress our emotions.
I feel like to guys, we may be treated a certain way that evokes an idea that we have to be extremely strong and upfront and here as a man, and I'm going to be composed at all times.
Now, I've got a slight issue with this, Tommy, in the sense that one of the most devastating moments for me as a movie watcher was watching James Bond blubbing in the last Bond movie. Right? I don't think to prove you're a modern man, you need to be sobbing all the time. You know, I can't remember the last time I cried. It doesn't make me less of a man or less empathetic to people or anything. I just think again, the pendulum issue of what we want men to be. I think we're now trying to persuade a lot of young men, if you're not emoting all the time, then you're being suppressed in some way. We have over here the British stiff upper lip, which I think is a really bad rap. I think it's not a bad thing to actually not over-emote. Your thoughts?
I agree. I think
sorry, Sean, I'll come to you. That was for Tommy. I'll come to you in a minute, Sean.
Oh, sorry, Tom.
For Tommy.
Sorry.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all, Piers. I don't think that men should be trained to be overly emotional and that should be a sign now of new maturity, being emotional. I don't agree with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with men crying in certain circumstances. Listen, everybody has a different journey. Everybody has a different set of circumstances. There are circumstances wherein men crying I have no issue with. It's also not up to me to tell a man when he can or cannot cry. I personally prefer the men in my life not to be overly emotional, but that's just a personal preference. Really, who am I to tell a man how he should exhibit his emotions? But again, I think that there is two sides here that are both too extreme. You've got the one hand that wants men to be feminine and cry and show their emotion and be weak. And then you've got the other side that says you cannot cry, you must always be strong, and you should look at women as an object. So again, there's got to be a happy medium here. I think there once was, but now because of, again, I agree, there was an overreaction of the feminist movement to make men weak. I don't agree with that either.
Yeah.
I just wish we could come to a place where there was a happy medium, where people could just be human beings who could have a gender role but weren't married to that gender role in absoluteness. There's got to be a place for that. I would certainly hope.
Yeah.
Look at her try to defend herself. you're not obligated to that role. You know what I'm saying? I can still work and take care of my family. That's crazy. That's crazy. But let's continue.
Hey, Wilson, when was the last time you cried?
What is that?
When I had a death in my family.
How long ago was that? If you don't mind me asking.
Many years. Many years. I don't know, maybe a decade, something like that.
Right. So you haven't shed a tear in a decade.
I don't think so. No.
Would you see it inherently as a weakness in a man to over-emote?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Men, listen. You don't want men to fall to pieces in a crisis. You're the head of a family. You're the head of your household, and also you're the heads of nations. You have a moral obligation not to fall to pieces. In fact, I would say you're duty bound not to. You need to be able to control your emotions, and you need to be able to attempt to control them at all times. Not to say that you're not going to lose control. Nobody's perfect. But I think that the idea of the stoic man is a much better prospect for the idea of like this leftist that I'm arguing with next to me on the panel. I would not want to be that guy, that person who just cannot control their internal emotions. They can't do it. And unfortunately, again, this is through the viewpoint of the feminine prism that it's only through empathy, right? Empathy first. And it's like, no, it's not always about empathy. It's also about reason. It's also about logic. It's also about understanding that we live in a carnal world full of warring tribes who are always killing each other. And that's part of the human condition. You can't afford to have your men losing control to emotion.
Okay,
I agree with some points that he had just mentioned, but let's go over it. Her, I don't know her name. Really don't care for her name. None of my business. But she said something about, she doesn't want her man to be overtly emotion or reactive, right? And she says, who's me to tell you what a man should be? Perfect. I like that she said that. Perfect. Because you should not be doing it. You don't know what a man's life is. So good on you for that one. Right? Listen, evil comes through the woman. It's written in the Bible. Okay? It's in the Bible. They are the first to judge you. And they will judge you accordingly. Because they are playing God. Once Eve ate the apple, she know no good and evil. She become just like God. She can judge. But you're not supposed to judge. Are you now? So guess what? Because women have made the devil their God, and it's written in the Bible, I should put enmity between the female seed and the snake field. You shall both be enemy for the rest of your life. And the reason for that is because women go in their imagination. And by Eve taking the apple, it caused that friction. They have fallen away from God. And Adam is subjective to the woman. So when a woman's going to tell you, oh, I want you to be emotional. I want you to do this. I want you to do that. That's the evil in her controlling you to be subjective to her. When that's not your nature. Your nature is of God. No emotions. Emotions are not from God. It's from the devil, the thoughts, the deceiver that the women have made her God. So you're going to listen to the deceiver, which is in the woman? Or are you going to go back to your father because you will fall away from him because his wisdom flowed through you, the man? You're supposed to be the leader like Andrew Wilson said. Which are you going to do? It's up to you to choose. Are you going to work on yourself or keep chasing the woman that's going to keep leading you into hell? That makes your life miserable. Now to the point that Andrew had made. Now I forgot the points. He made a point here that I wanted to touch on.
It's through the viewpoint of the feminine prism that it's only through empathy, right?
I have to go back a little bit more.
And listen, you don't want men to fall to pieces in a crisis. You're the head of a family. You're the head of your household.
Head of the family,
and also you're the heads of nations. You have a moral obligation not to fall to pieces.
True.
In fact, I would say you're duty bound not to. You need to be able to control your emotions, and you need to be able to...
There we go. Control emotions. You cannot control your emotions. No matter how hard you try, you can't control it. That's why society is so erratic. You hear this guy, oh, I feel like, so I just killed this guy. My emotions, they say they were abused as child coming up, and that's what caused them to act out. Because of their emotions, they can't control it. But you can't, because it's a spirit. You've identified with that spirit for so long when you were a kid, when you were traumatized. Because you were traumatized, you have identified the spirit that was passed down to you from your mom, because she's the emotional one. She passed it down to you. And you can try to control it as much as you want. You cannot. You go into thoughts, get the emotions, then get the action. Because you can't get the emotions without the thought. You're judging yourself. And you're judging the situation, which makes you go into thoughts. Then you get the action. Then you get the emotion, I should say. Then the action flows. The only way to get rid of that spirit that you have identified with, the not you, is for you to seek after God. And He will shine the light on it for you. And He'll be able to take it away from you. You yourself can't do it. Therapy can't do it, because the more you go to therapy, the more you go deeper into it. Because now you're into thoughts, you're talking about your problem, and you keep identifying with the same problem when you go to therapy or when situations happen in your life. Because you cannot see the devil coming from a mile away to set you up. Amazing, isn't it?
It's only through empathy, right? Empathy first. And it's like, no, it's not always about empathy. It's also about reason. It's also about logic. It's also about understanding that we live in a carnal world full of warring tribes who are always killing each other.
People are evil.
That's part of the human condition. You can't afford to have your men losing control to emotion,
okay,
to empathy.
James, when was the last time you
society
did
go crazy?
Holiday? Let's flip the question
I
around.
haven't cried today, but I did cry yesterday, and I think it's okay to cry. And it's funny that you keep trying to goad me and saying that I don't have control of my emotions. I think I have incredible control over my emotions because I know what's upsetting me.
So why you're crying?
And I'm able to talk about it.
Well, how often do you cry?
I mean, not all the time, but
every day.
No, not.
It's funny thing is, it's the not him that's crying, and he's identified with the not him for so long. It controls him, and he's crying. But I understand. I hope the Lord help you, my guy. Any woman you get with, it will not last. She's gonna see you as a female, unfortunately. But it's true.
Every day, Piers. I cried yesterday. I probably haven't cried for about 3 weeks before that. But honestly, my therapist tells me I need to cry, and it's a good release.
But the point being, Andrew hasn't cried in 10 years.
He has a therapist.
That's a weakness, Andrew, that you haven't cried.
He has a therapist.
Like, that's
crazy.
To me.
Told me I could cry.
I'm so worried about you. I can't understand. Well, you're crying now, and please, I happily facilitated that for you.
I think we're seeing the two extremes. That
and it's
Tommy
not helping.
It's honestly, yeah, Tommy, you're so right. There's no nuance. I mean, it's difficult to have nuance on this show anyway, but we do need to find some in this debate.
I think the point is, men should not feel they can never emote, but also they shouldn't be encouraged to believe if they're not constantly emoting there's something wrong with them.
Well, of course, but also
that's where the pendulum has just gone too far.
You are also sort of guilty of this manosphere, Piers. You're very much in the manosphere yourself.
Well, what do you think that means?
Well, it means that you think James Bond shouldn't cry, and that if he does, that's a weakness.
I want James Bond to be. I want him to seduce women.
Which he does.
I want him to be a ruthless, steely-eyed dealer of death to bad guys.
But also,
I want him to have a cigarette with his whiskey or his shaken lobster martini.
Maybe Andrew's your type.
And I don't want him sobbing like a baby all the time. I don't.
Like Tommy might.
Guess what? When you're in Her Majesty's Secret Service, you don't have time to cry all the time.
Very sad news about Her Majesty, Piers. Sadly, she did pass away, and I'm sure you cried at that, which is completely
His
within
Majesty
your right.
now, obviously.
Tommy.
Actually, the last Bond film was under Her Majesty, so I was correct.
Fine. Great fact checking. Tommy would obviously like to go out with a man like you then, because you don't think it's okay for a man to cry.
She has excellent taste.
But there are other women who do like a man who cries. Like, we're not all the same. We don't all require the same type of man. So it's fine if we all want to be different types of men, but there shouldn't be one rule for all men, and that's the problem.
All right, let me bring Sean back.
Women lied to this guy. His mom lied to him. Every woman he's been with lied to him. Unfortunately, he's a beta male. He's a simp. And every woman he gets with is going to see him as a female. Not even this woman would even think twice. Even when she was younger, think twice to be with him. He's looking at him as weak.
Again, and bring it back to adolescence, because this series has blown up worldwide. It's got incredible numbers of people watching, talking about it, debating. A lot of parents thinking, what should they do if they have a young teenage boy? You know, and I saw it, as I was saying, with my three sons, the Jonathan Hayden book about cell phones, you know, from 2010, when phones became smartphones, basically young people's brains started scrambling, and they've carried on scrambling ever since. That doesn't help. I think a lot of the issues that young men face are driven by stuff they see on their phone.
I agree. I mean, for this specific instance, my wife and I were waiting to give our children phones until at least 8th grade, right? At least 8th grade. We want to monitor what they're seeing and what they're being filled with, right? Because again, they're subject to search engines. They hear things at school, then they go home, they search it on their phone, they search it in their room, and now they're wide open to this world that they don't need to be a part of because their brains haven't fully formed yet. They're still little. My son's almost 12, right? I got to be very careful of what he puts in his mind. And social media, and for the things that we are doing as adults, yeah, it's pouring into our household and we're doing well with it. But for an adolescent, like these young kids, I'm seeing kids at dinners when we're at restaurant surfing TikTok while their parents are not even paying attention to what they're doing. Like,
and whose fault is
right
that?
That right there is a massive problem. And if we don't, as a society, get a hold of that, then this will never end. There'll be more series like Adolescence that hit even harder because we're witnessing it in our own lives.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew, you seem to be in agreement.
I just want to touch on a point where this guy said he wants to control what's happening in his house. He wants to control what his kids does. Unfortunately, that's not going to work because guess what? The more you try to control your kids, the more they're going to want to know. So just sit down, be an example. They will ask the question and you will answer. But you trying to control them, it shows that you still have the spirit of your mom because she's still controlling you. You're just like your mom. You're going to control them to do what you want when you want it, and they're going to resent you for it. And they're going to end up growing up hating you. Because you can't lead your household properly. I don't know if your woman is giving you this idea because honestly, it seems like your woman run your relationship. Honestly, that's not how a man works. A man would just tell the kids the truth and that's it. Doesn't matter how they're going to feel about it because feeling is irrelevant. Feeling is not good to have. Feelings control you. They manipulate you to do things you don't want to do. Just like Paul said. I understand that it's not me. It's a thing that I've made a home inside of me. Keeps getting me to do the things I don't want to do. And he has the same spirit. Being controlled by the spirit of his mom. Check this out. Tell your kids not to touch the hot stove and see if your kid is just gonna go and touch the hot stove because they want to know. Look at this. There's a lot of kids that's traumatized from religion because when they were young, you force it on them. You tell them this. You tell them that. You didn't live an example for them to come and ask you, Dad, why do you do this? You force it onto them. So they end up resenting religion. They end up turning atheists. They turn away because you force things onto them. You should just live an example. And they will come and ask the question. It's that simple.
With some of that.
Yeah, it's poison. There's no doubt. It re-scrambles children's brains, and it's very difficult to monitor. Even if you have parental controls, they can find ways around it. At school, they have peers who will assist them in getting around it. You have to monitor it really well. Smartphone technology for my own kids, it was kind of new.